The hiss of the cryopod echoed through the chamber as Hannah Kim's eyes fluttered open for the first time in centuries. The artificial lighting of the generation ship, Mnemosyne, felt harsh after her long slumber. She was one of the chosen few, preserved through the millennia for this exact moment. "Admiral Kim," said Dr. Toppark, his voice steady despite the historic nature of the moment. "Welcome to the year 5187. We've reached the outer boundary of former hegemony space." Hannah's mind sharpened quickly, the neural enhancements she'd received before stasis working as designed. 3,000 years had passed since Earth burned, since the alien hegemony had deemed humanity too dangerous to exist. 7 ships had escaped the destruction, carrying the seeds of vengeance with them. "Status of the fleet?" she asked, her voice rough from disuse. "The Mnemosyne leads 6 warships, all constructed during our exile. The Guardian, the Retribution, the Promise, the Memory, the Vengeance, and the Horizon. Humanity has survived, Admiral, and we've advanced beyond anything the hegemony could imagine." Hannah nodded, remembering the oath she had taken before entering cryosleep. Earth would be avenged. It was the promise that had sustained generations of humans born in the void of space, living and dying with one purpose: to ensure that those responsible would face justice. "Then it's time," she said, rising from the pod. "Prepare the command center. Let's remind the galaxy who we are." Hannah's legs felt weak as she took her first steps. Dr. Park offered his arm for support. The muscles in her body remembered their purpose slowly, each movement becoming more steady than the last. She had trained for this day, prepared her mind and body for the shock of waking after so long. "The others?" she asked. "The command team is being awakened now," Dr. Park replied. "General Sung will join you on the bridge within the hour." They walked together down the long curved hallway of the ship. Through the viewing windows, Hannah could see stars. Real stars, not the simulation she had grown used to in training. The sight made her chest tight with emotion. Somewhere among those distant points of light had been Earth. Once. "How many were born during the journey?" Hannah asked. 17 generations, Dr. Park said. "Most never saw Earth except in records. But every child born was taught its history, its beauty, and what was taken from us." The command center doors slid open. The room buzzed with activity as crew members worked at their stations. They all wore the same dark uniforms with the emblem of Earth on their shoulders, a blue and green circle that no living human had seen with their own eyes in millennia. Young faces turned to look at her. These people were the descendants of those who had escaped, born and raised in space. To them, she was a legend stepped out of history, one of the sleepers preserved from Earth's final days. A young officer approached and saluted. "Admiral Kim, I'm Captain Ji-Soo. It's an honor to meet you." Hannah returned the salute. "The honor is mine, Captain. Your ancestors kept humanity alive. That was no small feat." Captain Ji led her to the main viewing screen. "We've just completed our scan of the nearest hegemony world. It appears much has changed since the records of your time." The screen showed a planet orbiting a yellow star. Its surface was covered with cities that glowed even from space. Ships moved in and out of orbit, smaller and less advanced than the human fleet, Hannah noted with satisfaction. "Their technology has barely advanced," Captain Ji said. "They grew comfortable after destroying Earth. Without us to compete with, they slowed down." "While we never stopped," Hannah said quietly. General Sung entered the command center, his movements stiff from cryosleep but his eyes sharp. He clasped Hannah's arm in greeting. "Admiral, the day has finally come." "It has, old friend," she replied. They had trained together on Earth, had been among the last to see the blue skies and green forests before the evacuation. More of the command crew arrived, all sleepers from Earth, awakened for the final approach. Dr. Mainasio, their chief scientist, Commander Jun Park, tactical officer. Each face brought back memories of Earth of the frantic days before the evacuation. "Show me the fleet," Hannah ordered. The view on the screen changed to show the 6 warships flying in formation behind the Mnemosyne. They were massive, built during the long journey by generations who never forgot their purpose. The ships gleamed with a strange metal that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, one of many technologies humans had developed during their exile. 3,000 years, General Sung said quietly beside her. Do you think anyone will remember why we've come? They destroyed our world, Hannah replied. They don't get to forget just because time has passed. The command crew gathered around the central table as Captain G activated a holographic display of the hegemony territory. The hegemony has splintered, Captain G explained. What was once a united empire is now divided into 12 separate territories. They've fought among themselves for centuries, weakening them for our arrival, Commander Jun noted with satisfaction. Hannah studied the map. What about their homeworld? Still exists, but it's no longer the seat of power, Captain G said. Their leadership is scattered across multiple systems. Hannah considered this information. The plan had always been to strike at the heart of the hegemony, to make them feel what Earth had felt. But there was no longer a single heart to strike. We adjust, she decided. We'll need intelligence first, a small team to infiltrate their border world and learn more about what we're facing. Dr. Mina stepped forward. Admiral, there's something else you should know. The generations born on this ship, they've been modified. Modified how? Hannah asked. Each generation was enhanced beyond the last, Dr. Mina explained. The children born in space can interface directly with our technology. They process information faster than we ever could. As if on cue, a young crew member approached. He couldn't have been more than 20 years old. Admiral, I'm Quan, communications specialist, he said. I've been monitoring their transmissions since we entered range. I can show you. Quan held out his hand. The skin on his palm glowed slightly, and suddenly the command table was filled with alien voices, translated into Korean in real time. They speak of celebration, Quan said. Today marks 3,000 years since the Great Cleansing. They're celebrating Earth's destruction. A cold silence fell over the command center. Hannah looked at the faces around her, the sleepers who remembered Earth, and the spaceborne who had never known it, all of them united by a single purpose. Perfect timing, Hannah said at last. Send word throughout the fleet. The wait is over. Operation Remembrance begins now. The border world of Nyx hung in the view screen, a swirl of blue and green that painfully reminded Hannah of Earth. The settlement below belonged to the Ardani, one of the many species that had once comprised the mighty hegemony. They're responding to our hail, said Communications Officer Jin Hook. On screen, Hannah commanded. The alien that appeared looked nothing like the monstrous images preserved in Earth's final transmissions. This was a different generation, perhaps even a different evolution of the species. I am Magistrate Doral, the Ardani said. We have no record of your species in our databases. I am Admiral Hannah Kim of the human fleet. Your ancestors knew us well before they destroyed our homeworld. The alien's eyes widened. The Earth extinction. That's historical mythology from the Imperial Age. That was 3 millennia ago. Later, in the privacy of her quarters, Hannah met with her war council. Commander Das Sung placed a data crystal on the table. Their historical archives confirm it, he said. The hegemony fractured 1,000 years after Earth's destruction. These Ardani are 8 generations removed from those who participated in the attack. And according to their records, added Intelligence Officer Sunley, Earth's destruction wasn't a unanimous decision. It was orchestrated by a faction called the Preservers, who believed humans would eventually overthrow the hegemony. Hannah stared at the star map. Then we won't punish those who bear no guilt. Find me these Preservers. They're the ones who must answer for Earth. The tension in the room was thick as the council members exchanged glances. What had seemed so clear for 3,000 years, revenge against the hegemony, now had complications. We should request a meeting with the Ardani leadership, General Sung suggested. They might have more information about these preservers. Hannah nodded in agreement. Prepare a diplomatic team. I will lead it myself. The surface of Nyx was eerily similar to Earth's landscapes. As the shuttle descended through puffy white clouds, Hannah saw rolling hills covered in vegetation that looked almost like trees and grass. The Ardani settlement was a sprawling city built around a central spire that reached toward the sky. Their architecture is beautiful, Dr. Minna remarked as they approached the landing pad. Don't be fooled by beauty, General Sung said quietly. Their ancestors still played a part in Earth's destruction. The diplomatic team was met by a group of Ardani officials. Up close, the aliens were taller than humans, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors slightly as they moved. Their faces had 2 large eyes that blinked vertically. Magistrate Doral stepped forward. Welcome to Nyx, Admiral Kim. Your arrival has caused quite a stir among our people. Many believe humans were just stories. We are very real, Hannah replied. And we have returned. The Ardani led them to a grand hall with walls made of a transparent material that showed the city beyond. The council chamber was filled with Ardani officials, all watching the humans with obvious curiosity. You spoke of the Earth extinction, Hannah said once they were seated. What exactly do your people know about that event? An older Ardani with skin that had faded to a pale blue stepped forward. I am historian Vera. The destruction of Earth is taught as a dark chapter in our history, the most considerate distant past. The records state that the Hegemony Council ordered the destruction of your world because of a prediction that humans would one day challenge their power. A prediction? Hannah asked. You destroyed our world based on a prediction. Not us, Magistrate Doral said quickly. Our ancestors, and even then, it wasn't the Ardani who pushed for Earth's destruction. The historical records are clear that it was the preservers who orchestrated it. The Ardani representatives actually voted against it. Murmurs spread through the human delegation. This was not information they had expected. Tell us about these preservers, General Sung demanded. The historian activated a holographic display that showed aliens with crystalline growths on their bodies. The preservers were the oldest species in the hegemony. They believed themselves responsible for guiding the evolution of the galaxy. They had strange abilities. Some said they could see possible futures. And they saw that humans would overthrow them, Hannah stated. Yes, they claimed to have foreseen that humans would bring change that would destroy their way of life. They convinced enough of the Hegemony Council that Earth posed an existential threat. Jin Hek leaned toward Hannah. This matches the data we recovered from their archives. Where are these preservers now? Hannah asked. Magistrate Doral and the historian exchanged glances. The preservers withdrew from public hegemony affairs about 1,000 years ago, as the empire began to fracture. They retreated to their core worlds. Few have direct contact with them anymore, but their influence is still felt. They control much of the advanced technology that the fractured hegemony relies on. After the meeting, the human delegation returned to their shuttle. The Ardani had provided them with star charts showing the location of known preserver worlds. They seemed genuinely remorseful about Earth, Dr. Minna said as they lifted off. Remorse doesn't bring back our world, General Sung replied. Hannah remained silent, watching the planet shrink below them. When they were back aboard the Mnemosyne, she called her officers to the command center. We need to send scout ships to verify the information the Ardani gave us, she ordered. And I want all our intelligence resources focused on learning everything we can about these preservers. Quan, the young communications specialist, approached with a datapad. Admiral, I've analyzed the communication patterns across the former hegemony. There's evidence of a hidden network linking several worlds that don't officially communicate with each other. The preservers, Hannah said. It appears so. They operate from shadows, but their influence is extensive. Later that night, Hannah stood alone at the viewing window in her quarters, staring out at the stars. The mission had changed. The enemy was not the entire hegemony, but a specific faction that had manipulated history. A chime at her door announced General Sung. "The scout ships have returned from the nearest preserver world," he reported. "It's heavily defended, far more advanced than the Ardani settlement." "What did they see?" Hannah asked. "Strange technology, structures that seem to shift and change, and evidence of extensive research facilities. Whatever the preservers have been doing these past 3,000 years, they've been busy." Hannah turned from the window, her decision made. "Prepare the fleet. We're not going to attack blindly. First, we gather more intelligence. I want to know exactly who we're facing before we strike." "And what about the rest of the former hegemony worlds?" Sung asked. "We leave them be for now. Our quarrel isn't with species who had no choice in Earth's destruction. It's with those who made the decision." Hannah's voice hardened. "The preservers thought they could wipe us out to prevent a future where humans challenged them. Now we'll show them that they only ensured it would happen." The ancient library world of Archivus loomed before them, its surface dotted with massive data repositories. Hannah led the infiltration team personally, utilizing the stealth technology developed during humanity's long exile. "The main historical archives should be in the central complex," whispered Jun-Ho, the team's tech specialist, as they moved through shadow-filled corridors. When they reached the central database, Jun quickly bypassed the security systems, revealing petabytes of historical data. "I found it," he said after several tense minutes. "Files on Earth's destruction, classified under highest security protocol." The holographic display flickered to life, showing images that made Hannah's heart clench. Earth, beautiful and blue, and then the hegemony ships surrounding it. The planetary bombardment lasted less than an hour. "Play the command authorization," Hannah ordered. A new hologram appeared, aliens in ornate garments bearing a distinctive symbol, a spiral within a triangle. "By order of the Preserver Council, the human homeworld is to be eliminated to preserve the future of all sentient life," the alien said. "The prophecy must not come to pass." Jun continued searching through connected files. "Admiral, I found current data. The preservers still exist. They operate as an inner empire within the fractured hegemony. They control 27 core worlds from their capital on Nexus Prime." Hannah's expression hardened. "Now we have our target." The team moved silently through the vast archive complex. Their stealth suits bent light around them, making them nearly invisible to the few Archivist guardians patrolling the halls. The suits were hot and uncomfortable, but they worked perfectly. 3,000 years of human innovation had produced technology the hegemony couldn't detect. "We need to download everything about the preservers," Hannah whispered to Jun, "especially their defenses on Nexus Prime." Jun nodded and connected a small device to the database terminal. "This will take about 10 minutes. The data is heavily encrypted." Nearby, Security Officer Bin kept watch at the doorway. "Movement in the East Corridor," he reported quietly through their comlink. "2 guards approaching." Hannah signaled for the team to freeze in place. Their stealth technology worked best when they didn't move. She held her breath as 2 tall, thin aliens walked past the doorway, their 4 eyes scanning the room briefly before moving on. "Clear," Bin said after they passed. Jun worked quickly at the terminal, his fingers moving across the holographic interface. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said suddenly. A new set of files appeared on the screen. These showed different images, what looked like laboratories with strange equipment. And in these laboratories were containment units holding what appeared to be human DNA samples. "They kept samples," Jun said, his voice tight with anger. "After destroying Earth, they collected and preserved human genetic material." "Why?" Hannah asked, leaning closer to the screen. Jun opened more files. "According to these records, they've been studying us, trying to understand what made humans so dangerous in their prophecy." The implication sent a chill down Hannah's spine. "Are there any living human specimens?" Jun's fingers moved faster across the interface. "Yes. On Nexus Prime. They've been conducting experiments for centuries." Hannah's hand tightened on her weapon. The mission had just become more complicated. Not just revenge now, but rescue as well. Download complete, Jun announced. I have everything. Defense systems, communication protocols, facility locations, and... He paused, looking up at Hana. I found the original prophecy. The screen changed to show ancient text in the Preserver language, with translation scrolling beside it. The prophecy claimed that humans would bring about a great change that would end the Preserver dominance, Jun explained. It said humans had a unique adaptability that would eventually outpace all other species. The Preservers saw us as an existential threat, and rather than face that threat, they tried to erase us, Hana said. There's more, Jun continued. The Preservers have been manipulating the evolution of other species for millennia. They see themselves as the guardians of proper development in the galaxy. Humans were the first species they encountered that they couldn't control or predict. A sudden alarm blared through the complex. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. We've been detected, Bin reported from the doorway. Security protocols are activating. Time to go, Hana ordered. Jun, do you have everything we need? Yes, Admiral. Complete download. Hana activated her comm link to their shuttle pilot waiting outside the complex. Extraction required. South entrance, 5 minutes. The team moved quickly through the corridors, no longer concerned with stealth. Speed was now more important than secrecy. They encountered 2 guard patrols, which they quickly subdued with stun weapons. Hana had given strict orders, no lethal force unless absolutely necessary. These archives held the galaxy's history, and the staff here were scholars, not soldiers. As they approached the south entrance, a heavy security door began to close. Jun rushed forward, using his hacking device to override the system. Hurry, he called as the door froze halfway closed. The team slipped underneath, with Hana coming through last just as the door crashed down behind her. Outside, the night air of Archivus felt cool after the stuffy archives. Their shuttle waited in a clearing, engines already running. The pilot, Yun, had moved it closer to the exit, risking detection to ensure a quicker extraction. Everyone on board, Hana ordered as they ran for the shuttle. Once inside, Yun lifted off immediately, the shuttle rising rapidly into the night sky. Below them, alarm lights flashed across the archive complex. Setting course for rendezvous with the fleet, Yun reported. ETA 30 minutes. In the passenger compartment, Jun was already analyzing the stolen data. Admiral, I've found detailed maps of the Preserver defense network around Nexus Prime. It's impressive, but it has weaknesses we can exploit. Hana nodded, but her mind was on the human specimens mentioned in the files. How many were there? Were they conscious? Did they know what had happened to Earth? When they docked with the Mnemosyne, the command crew was waiting. Hana ordered an immediate briefing in the war room. The Preservers are more dangerous than we thought, she told her officers as Jun displayed the data they had recovered. They'd been experimenting with human DNA for 3,000 years, and they still believe in the prophecy that led them to destroy Earth. Their capital on Nexus Prime is heavily defended, Jun explained, showing the tactical display. But their fleet is scattered across their 27 worlds. If we strike quickly, we can hit the capital before they can bring reinforcements. General Sung studied the display. A direct assault would be costly, even with our advanced technology. There's another option, Jun said. The files contain details about a secret entrance, a maintenance tunnel that leads directly to the central facility where they're keeping the human specimens. Hana made her decision. We'll do both. The main fleet will engage their defenses as a distraction. Meanwhile, a small team will infiltrate through this secret entrance to rescue our people and access their central command systems. Who will lead the infiltration team? General Sung asked. Hana's eyes were hard with determination. I will. As the officers left to prepare, Hana remained in the war room, staring at the holographic image of Nexus Prime. After 3,000 years, humanity was about to confront those who had ordered their extinction. But now, they weren't just seeking justice for the dead. They were fighting to save the living as well. The prophecy was right, she said softly to the empty room. Humans are bringing change to the galaxy, just not in the way the preservers expected. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly above Nexus Prime, catching the preserver defense grid completely unprepared. The innovations of 3,000 years, quantum weaponry, phase shift shields, and gravity manipulation technology tore through defenses designed to stop conventional attacks. On the bridge of the Retribution, Commander Quan Park directed the assault with cold precision. Their orbital platforms are neutralized. Admiral Kim's ground team is away. On the surface, Hannah led her strike force through the Preserver Citadel. They encountered resistance, but the battle armor developed in exile made them nearly unstoppable. The central chamber is ahead, reported Sergeant Min Su, checking his scanner. Heavy energy signatures. They're waiting for us. When they breached the final door, Hannah found herself facing the Preserver High Council, descendants of those who had ordered Earth's destruction. But it was what lined the walls that froze her blood. Stasis tubes containing what appeared to be humans. "What is this?" she demanded of the alien leader. "Insurance," the Preserver said. "We kept samples of human DNA. We've been cultivating hybrids, studying what made your kind so dangerous. The prophecy stated humans would bring change that would destroy our way of life." Hannah approached one of the tubes, placing her hand on the glass. The woman inside looked back with frightened eyes that were unmistakably human. "You didn't just destroy our world," Hannah whispered. "You've been experimenting on us for 3,000 years." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the stasis tubes. Hannah counted at least 30 of them lining the walls. Each contained a person who looked human but with subtle differences. Some had slightly different skin tones. Others had eyes that reflected light like a cat's. The Preserver leader stood tall in the center of the room. Its crystalline body structure caught the light, sending rainbow patterns across the floor. The creature had no mouth, but its words formed directly in Hannah's mind. "We did what was necessary," the Preserver said. "The prophecy showed us that humanity would spread across the stars and change everything. Our kind has guided the evolution of species for millions of years. We could not allow that order to be disrupted." Min Su stepped forward, his weapon raised. "Admiral, we should eliminate them now." Hannah held up her hand, stopping him. "How many?" she asked the Preserver. "How many humans have you kept captive over the centuries?" "These are the last," the Preserver replied. "The earlier specimens did not survive the procedures. These are the perfected ones. Human DNA altered to be controllable while keeping the adaptability that makes your species unique." Jun Ho moved to one of the computer terminals along the wall. "Admiral, I can access their systems from here. We can release the stasis tubes." Hannah nodded. "Do it." The Preserver leader took a step toward them. "You don't understand what you're doing. These specimens are dangerous. They contain the altered genetics that our prophecy warned about." "They're people," Hannah said firmly, "not specimens." Jun Ho worked quickly at the terminal. "I've got it. Stasis fields disengaging in 3, 2, 1. The front panels of the tubes slid open with a hiss. The people inside remained still for a moment, then began to blink and move as consciousness returned. The woman Hannah had approached staggered forward, and Hannah caught her before she could fall. Who are you?" the woman asked, her voice rough from disuse. "I'm Admiral Hannah Kim. We're humans, like you. We've come to take you home." The woman looked confused. "Home? Earth?" Hannah's heart tightened. "Earth is gone, but we have a new home now." Around the room, the other captives were waking up. Some fell to their knees, weak from their long confinement. Hannah's team moved to help them. The Preserver leader's crystalline body flashed with what Hannah interpreted as anger. "You cannot take them. They are the culmination of our research. Each one represents a different pathway of human evolution that we have guided and controlled." Hannah turned back to the alien, her anger rising. They are not your research. They are victims of your crimes. First you destroyed our world, then you kept our people as lab animals." Her comm unit buzzed. "Admiral," came Commander Kwan's voice. "The Preserver fleet has been detected entering the system. ETA 15 minutes. "Understood," Hannah replied. "Prepare for extraction. We'll need medical support for approximately 30 civilians." Min Su approached one of the other preservers, who had remained silent during the confrontation. "These controls, what do they do?" he asked, pointing to a large console at the far end of the room. "That is the prophecy chamber," the preserver leader said, "where we consult the future pathways." Jun-Ho looked up from his terminal. "Admiral, I've accessed their network. This facility doesn't just control their research. It's connected to every preserver world. It's the central hub of their empire." Hannah made a decision. Download everything. Their research, their prophecies, their control systems. We're taking it all. The preserver leader's body pulsed with bright light. "You cannot. The knowledge is too dangerous for your kind." "That's not your decision to make anymore," Hannah replied. As Jun-Ho worked at the terminal, the rescued humans gathered in the center of the room, watching with a mixture of fear and wonder. Many of them had never seen another human before, having been born in the preserver facilities. "What will happen to us?" asked a young man with silvery pupils. "You'll come with us," Hannah told him. "You're human. Whatever they've done to your DNA, you belong with your people." The preserver leader moved toward the prophecy chamber, but Min Su intercepted it. "Stay where you are," he ordered. "You don't understand," the preserver said, its mental voice urgent. "The prophecy must be consulted. We must see what pathway your actions have opened." Hannah hesitated, then nodded to Min Su. "Let it access the chamber. I want to see this prophecy it condemned our world." The preserver moved to the controls, its crystalline limbs manipulating the strange technology. The center of the room darkened, then filled with swirling patterns of light. "The pathways of possibility," the preserver explained. "Each strand represents a different future." The light formed into images: planets, stars, civilizations rising and falling. Hannah watched as one bright strand grew dominant, showing images of humans and other species working together, building something new. "There," the preserver said. "That is the pathway we feared. Humans bringing change that would end our dominance." Hannah studied the images. "That's not destruction. That's cooperation, evolution, progress. It is the end of the order we have maintained for millions of years," the preserver insisted. "Your order," Hannah replied. "Not the natural order." Her comm unit buzzed again. "Admiral, extraction team is in position. Preserver reinforcements are approaching faster than expected." "Begin evacuation," Hannah ordered. "Get the civilians to the ships first." As her team began guiding the rescued humans toward the exit, Hannah turned to Jun-Ho. "Did you get everything?" He nodded, removing his data device from the terminal. "Complete download, including control codes for their entire network." Hannah looked once more at the prophecy chamber, still showing the strands of possible futures. Then she made her final decision. "Set the charges," she ordered. "This facility ends today." The decision weighed heavily on Hannah as she stood in the preserver broadcast center. "We could destroy them all," said Jin-Hyuk. "Our fleet has control of the system. Earth would be avenged." Hannah looked at the rescued hybrids, now safely aboard the memory. "Earth is gone. Killing them won't bring it back." She activated the Galactic broadcast system. "This is Admiral Hannah Kim of humanity. 3,000 years ago, our world was destroyed by the preservers. Today, we discovered why." The broadcast sent the preservers' own records to every world in the former hegemony, their genetic manipulation programs, their control of other species, their fear-based rule. Within weeks, rebellions erupted across preserver-controlled worlds. The hegemony's former members, long manipulated, rose against their hidden masters. 1 year later, Hannah stood on the surface of a terraformed world that the fleet had claimed. They called it New Earth. Beside her stood G1, one of the rescued hybrids who had become her most trusted advisor. "Was it the revenge you wanted?" G1 asked. Hannah watched as humans worked alongside aliens who had joined their cause. "No, it's something better. The preservers destroyed Earth because they feared we would change everything. In the end, they were right." She looked up at the unfamiliar stars. "Earth's legacy isn't extinction. It's this, a new beginning." After the broadcast, the human fleet withdrew from Nexus Prime. They left behind a shattered preserver leadership but did not destroy the planet. Instead, they watched from a distance as the truth spread across the galaxy. On the bridge of the Mnemoscene, Hannah received reports from across the former hegemony. Species after species rose up against the preservers who had secretly controlled them for millennia. The hybrids they had rescued provided living proof of the preservers' crimes. "What happens now?" General Sung asked as they observed the unfolding rebellion on the view screens. "Now we find a home," Hannah replied. "These people have lived their entire lives as test subjects. They deserve a world of their own." The search took months. The fleet traveled to dozens of star systems, looking for a planet that could support human life. Finally, they found it. A world with blue oceans and green continents, orbiting a yellow star much like Earth's sun. "It will need terraforming to be fully habitable," Dr. Minner reported after the initial surveys. "But the process should only take a few months with our technology." Hannah stood on the bridge, looking down at the planet that would become their new home. "Begin the preparations, and send messages to the former hegemony worlds that helped us. They're welcome to send representatives." The terraforming was a marvel of human ingenuity. Machines seeded the atmosphere with oxygen-producing bacteria. Engineered plants spread across the continents, turning barren soil into fertile ground. Lakes and rivers were purified, and Earth species were carefully introduced to create a balanced ecosystem. 6 months after discovering the planet, the first permanent settlement was established. Simple buildings at first, then more complex structures as more people moved down from the ships. The rescued hybrids were the first to set foot on the surface, claiming this world as their own after lifetimes spent in captivity. The name New Earth was suggested by G1, and it was unanimously accepted. Ji-1 had adapted quickly to freedom. Though she had been born in a preserver lab, altered with genes the aliens thought they could control, she possessed a wisdom that Hannah had come to rely on. Her eyes, with their slightly reflective quality, could see in near darkness, one of many modifications the preservers had made. "They tried to make us weapons," Ji-1 told Hannah one evening as they watched the sunset from a hilltop near the settlement. "Instead, they made us survivors." Representatives from former hegemony worlds began to arrive. The Ardeni came first, eager to establish relations with the humans who had freed them from preserver influence. Then others, species that had once been enemies but now sought alliance. "They fear us," General Sung observed after one such meeting. "They've seen what we accomplished after 3,000 years of exile. They worry we'll become the new preservers. Then we must show them we're nothing like the preservers," Hannah replied. A year after the broadcast that changed the galaxy, Hannah stood on a hillside overlooking the main settlement of New Earth. The city had grown rapidly, with homes and public buildings spreading across the valley. In the center stood a memorial, a monument to Earth, with its continents and oceans recreated in stone. Ji-1 joined her, carrying a small plant with blue flowers. "The botanists have created this from old Earth DNA samples. They call it Remember Blue. It's the first entirely Earth species to bloom on this world." Hannah took the plant, feeling its delicate leaves. 3,000 years planning revenge, and in the end, we chose to create instead of destroy. "Is that disappointing?" G1 asked. Hannah smiled. "No, it's the best possible outcome." Below them, a group of children played in a field. Human children born on the ships, and hybrid children born in preserver labs. They play together without distinction or difference. Nearby, a delegation of Ardeni watched with curiosity as the children taught them a game from Earth's past. The preservers were right to fear us, Hannah said, but not for the reasons they thought. They feared we would bring change, and we have. They feared we would end their way of life, and we did. But what comes after isn't destruction. It's something new and better. That evening, representatives from 12 former hegemony worlds gathered in the new council chamber. Hannah opened the meeting with a proposal, a new alliance of species, based on cooperation rather than control. Not an empire, but a federation of equals. The preservers spent millions of years trying to prevent species from evolving in ways they couldn't predict, she told the gathered aliens. They saw difference as a threat. We see it as a strength. The proposal was accepted. The new alliance would be called the Earth Federation, in honor of the world whose destruction had ultimately led to a new beginning. Later, as the twin moons of New Earth rose over the settlement, Hannah stood alone at the Earth Memorial. She placed her hand on the stone carving of the continent where she had been born, a place she had not seen since she was a young woman. "We did it," she whispered to the memory of her lost world. "Not the revenge we planned, but something better. You live on in us, in what we've built, in what will become." A new star shone brightly in the night sky. Not a star at all, but the first of many orbital stations that would connect New Earth to its new allies across the galaxy. The future that the preservers had feared was taking shape, but it wasn't one of destruction. It was one of growth, change, and endless possibility. Earth's legacy had never been extinction. It had always been hope. The end